Are you here?
I'm here.
I'm
What?
recording.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were doing.
We said we were about to start, right?
Yeah, but you look like you're getting things ready.
Welcome to the Cookie Table Podcast. This is Rob.
And this is Kai.
On this episode, we're going to be talking about the new Clint Eastwood drama biopic, Sully, starring Tom Hanks, and then delve into some of our personal favorite Hanks performances. So, just to get things started, Kai, it's been a while since we've had you on.
It has, but it hasn't been that long.
It's been a few weeks. It's been,
You know what?
3 or 4 weeks.
I think that's pretty good
It was
then.
Suicide Squad, I think, last.
Oh my god. That was
Yeah, well, we're on
that was
episode.
a month ago.
We're episode 32 now, so that was
Wow.
like 27, 8 or something, 9, I don't know, 9, something. I don't even know anymore. It was a while back. It was a few episodes ago.
Okay.
So what have you been up to? Anything to share with the group?
Nothing too incredible. Just been occupying myself and trying to find new hobbies and
Have you read or watched anything you want to share? This is like sort of like just catching up kind of segment.
oh gosh, well I've read a lot of books since the last podcast we've had. Um
What about one of your favorites, perhaps?
One of my favorites.
Since you're more of the book, which is ironic since I'm the writer here. Since you're more of the book reading type, and I'm usually watching movies and writing about them.
Well, I just finished reading Amy Poehler's Yes Please, which is outdated a little bit now. It's not a new release or anything since it came out in 2014. Just finished that, and that was really cute hearing her story. I'm also I've been reading a couple of Mindy Kaling's too, and I like what she has to say. So I like Mindy Kaling a lot now.
But you haven't even watched any of her
No, I haven't.
comedy or
Well,
her show or
Many
anything.
products on Hulu, and I'm not about to go get a Hulu subscription.
The one streaming service of the big three that we don't have a membership to.
Exactly.
Isn't that ironic?
It is ironic, and it's not like I don't really think Mindy Kaling even wants to be on Hulu. I'm sure she would be
Well,
happy
I
being
mean, her
back
show
on
got
Fox.
canceled on Fox, right? And so
Yeah.
the last season's on Hulu, and I guess they have rights to air the old episodes.
There
and
actually
stuff.
was an ad on
Or stream 'em, I
Instagram that
guess.
she posted where it was advertising one to 4 seasons 1 through 4 on Hulu. So, but it's been renewed. It's renewed for
not
season
not
5.
ongoing. I think it's the last season, as far as I heard.
I don't even know.
As far as I know.
I don't even watch the show, but so I've been reading I guess comedic books, and I have Amy Schumer's book on hold right now to read that one. I don't even know how this happened.
The girl with the lower back tattoo.
Yes,
Which is a great title.
Yeah, I'm not even into autobiographies very much, but I guess.
But when they're written by funny women, you like it.
Yeah.
But you didn't like Bossy Pants as much as I did, Tina Fey's book. That's weird.
No, I didn't. I didn't like. I think the reason I didn't like it that much is I didn't like the way it was segmented.
I guess maybe you don't like audiobooks, but part of the reason I liked it so much is that I listened to it on audiobook, and it's Tina Fey reading her own book and interpreting her own words in the way.
That's kind of meta, don't you think?
No, I mean it's an autobiography, so
I know.
they usually try and get the authors to read them.
It's just funny. It's like, I'm going to read my own book. It's like a bedtime story with your own.
Well,
book.
but I also did Kevin Smith, Jane Lynch, and some other ones. I think Steve Martin, the one that was on that Watch Mojo list that we just recently watched. Born Standing Up. I think I listened to that one. Yeah, when I had a commute to and from before I went full-time freelance, that was the thing. I had plenty of time to listen to audiobooks, and now it's like Kai's like, you should listen to the audiobook for Girl on the Train before the movie comes out. I'm like, okay, when?
And now
when do I have time to do
we
that?
have now
3 weeks or something?
No, a little less than a month because now it's September 8th.
You know what might happen?
October 7th.
I might just watch the movie and then listen to the book, because then I'll be like, I want to hear the book now.
And you like to do that.
That's how I do that.
I don't prefer to do that.
I do that.
I don't know. I'd rather read the book and then watch the movie and then be like, the movie sucked.
Well, but a lot of the books that I've read over the years have either been, I see a movie, not all of them, I mean, granted, but a lot of them, and when I was a kid, a lot of the books I probably still have a few of them, were novelizations of movies. So I'd see The Addams Family, and then I'd get the book, the novelization of the Addams Family movie, or Batman Returns, or The Mask, or like not Jurassic Park, because that was based on a book, but like some of these other ones up from the early to mid 90s. That was the thing I did a lot back in the day.
I think that was the thing, definitely.
Well, no, they still do novelizations, but it's that's just another product tie-in with things. And I've read Star Wars Episode 1 and 2, and then I still haven't read Episode 3. I have it sitting in my closet. It's like, I should probably read this and then get rid of it, because I don't know if I'm going to reread it. But yeah, so that's probably what'll happen. is Girl on the Train. Unless, is there a huge, super crazy twist like Gone Girl in there? No spoilers for Gone Girl, but
Yes.
not as good.
Not as good, but yes, there's a twist.
Well, maybe it'll be interesting to experience it in the movies, because I didn't have that experience with Gone Girl, and I sort of knew the twist coming, and see if I can sort of predict it halfway through. Maybe like halfway through the movie, I'll lean over and be like, blah 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 blah.
Well,
and you'll be like, damn it.
Well, I like the fact that we are talking about books, because the couple books I'm going to mention are going to be turned into stuff. So one book I did read recently was called Big Little Lies, and it's this book. This book's popularity has blown up, and the author Leanne Moriarty, she actually just released Truly Madly Guilty as a follow-up, and it's really difficult to get at the library. It's still only on hardcover, but Big Little Lies is actually going to be turned into a miniseries on HBO, I think, next year, starring Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon. And Nicole Kidman's actually the story is that she read that book in a day and enjoyed it so much that she bought the rights to an adaptation for the film.
And it's going to be David E. Kelly, by the way, creating it.
Well, there you go. And so she's a producer and one of the stars, and Reese Witherspoon is also involved. And Reese Witherspoon, she's another actress who likes to adapt books that she reads into movies, which is what happened with Wild. So I think that's a really good pairing, and Alexander Skarsgård is going to be in it.
Well, and also, because I looked it up on Wikipedia, it's going to be 7 episodes, a limited series, 7 episodes.
Yeah,
all
from a film to a miniseries.
Are all going to be directed by Jean-Marc Vallée, who's the guy that did Dallas Buyers Club, that Jake Gyllenhaal movie Demolition, that I actually have sitting by my TV, by our TV on Netflix disc, and Wild. With Reese Witherspoon, and Laura Dern's also going to be in this too.
Right, exactly.
So it's a Wild reunion.
Yeah, and Shailene Woodley will be in it as well. So it's kind of got an all-star cast and production team, and I want to check it out, but we don't have HBO.
We'll have to get
another one we don't have.
We'll have to get well. That's not the. I mean, that's HBO specific, but that might be. We'll just have to wait till it's over and then get HBO Go for a month and binge it like everybody does with Game of Thrones, apparently.
Yeah, but no, the book that book was pretty amazing, and I'm hoping. It was a comedy, but it was also a drama. There were twists and turns. And,
is that the one you were telling me about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it will be. Yep. So the miniseries.
Do you want to tell anybody like what it's about? Because
that's probably a good idea.
At least like a sentence or two, just like the
general
premise.
So it's similar to Girl on a Train, where it's told in different by different different perspectives. So it has told in the voice of 3 women, and this is set in Sydney, Australia, and these 3 women become friends, and kind of talks about their relationships, their lives. They all have children, and it's kind of basically the whole premise is it's the little lies that we tell ourselves and other people that end up becoming the big lies of our lives, and it's just. Yeah, it wasn't really what I expected. It had rave reviews on Goodreads, and from my friends, and I decided to check it out. And yeah, I was quite surprised. And now I even have a couple of that author's books on hold at the library to read a little bit more about what she has to write about. So Big Little Lies book, check it out. A miniseries, if you prefer that, go ahead and watch it on HBO while Game of Thrones is on hiatus. And well, maybe I should save the other 2 books for our podcast.
Wait, why they involve they tie into what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Perfect.
Okay.
So
cool.
What have you been up to?
I've been watching lots of movies. What did I see that I liked recently? I forget now.
Oh gosh, you see so many movies.
I do. I don't have my phone handy. It's like across the room. Well, I did on the last podcast. I talked about. What did I talk about on the last one? What was the last episode about? I forget now. Oh, Don't Breathe.
Oh.
Don't Breathe. It's so great. Probably one of the best films of the year. So I saw that. And then I'm getting ready to watch seasons 2 of Star Wars Rebels and The Flash. People that listen to the podcast regularly know that I really love The Flash. And I sort of like slept on it for a while. I sort of slept on it a while and then got involved with season 1 after season 2 had just ended. So now I'm just playing catch up before season 3 starts in at the beginning of October.
I think so, yeah.
And then Star Wars Rebels comes out in a couple weeks, but we don't really have cable, so I don't know how I'm gonna see Disney XD. That I might have to like ask my parents, like, hey, can I log into the Disney XD app with your like cable provider info or whatever? Because I tried to do that for Glee back in the day, and I don't know. I had issues with that. I don't know if it didn't go through or whatever. So so I've just been watching movies, and and I read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which I'll be talking about on the next episode after this next week. So
you're gonna talk about a book now.
So no, not now. Next week.
Well, I mean, next time you're gonna talk about a book.
Well, yeah, because I'm going to talk about how it can be adapted and my thoughts on the Harry Potter franchise in general. I'm still planning that episode, so we'll get there. So you want to just transition right into our review of Sully?
Well, I wanted to first introduce it by the other 2 books that I read.
Okay, Kai's taking over the show, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Because the other 2 books I read recently were Angels and Demons and Inferno. And I know that sounds out of order. For those of you who are not familiar, those are books by Dan Brown, and he had a 4-book series. First one was Angels and Demons. Second one is Da Vinci Code, that also became a movie starring Tom Hanks. And the third one was The Lost Symbol, and the fourth one was released only a couple years ago that will be turning into a movie coming out this fall with Tom Hanks called Inferno. So I already read Da Vinci Code, and I already had read The Lost Symbol, so I decided to bookend it with Angels and Demons.
Isn't that the first and most recent ones in the season?
Yes, exactly.
In the series, so that's why you
I know. It doesn't make any sense, but
no, whatever.
I enjoy Angels and Demons a lot.
They're very episodic anyway.
Yeah, they are. They are. It didn't really matter what order
I saw the first movie, I was bored, so I'm like, I'm good.
And then I tried to watch it with Rob, and I don't know. I felt bad putting him through that again.
I'd seen it before. You can watch it on Netflix.
I don't know how much I care. Not every book I read do I need to see the movie.
Right.
So
nothing against Tom Hanks, just not my kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or Ron Howard, who they've done great work separately and together. I really liked Apollo 13, for example. So and I think didn't Ron Howard direct Splash too? I believe so. I think he did. So
I don't know.
Yeah. So they've done some great work together.
That's his buddy.
That's just not my thing. Yeah, Ron Howard did Splash too. That's not my type of thing. I don't like the National Treasure movies either. I guess I don't give a crap about history enough to watch movies about it.
I thought National Treasure was really fun.
Yeah, I was bored.
I know.
Well, but you didn't see the. Yeah, I was gonna say you didn't see the sequel either. Yeah. So what's up with that?
Yeah. So anyway, I'm officially done with the Dan Brown series, and Rob and I may or may not see Inferno. I don't know.
I don't care about it.
I don't know. As I haven't seen any of those movies, and oh yeah, Angels and Demons was a movie too.
Yeah.
Okay, I forgot.
So Lost Symbol will probably come out in a few years after this.
Which is weird because Inferno was the last one.
I know. They're all over the place.
But I liked Inferno's plot. Like, I thought it was really interesting. And maybe that alone makes me want to kind of see the movie. But yeah, so Tom Hanks
I'll see it if you make me. Or if I decide to review it for another site or for the podcast. But other than that, yeah, I don't really need to see that.
Yeah. Well, so Tom Hanks is going to have basically 2 movies.
Well, he's also got The Circle, which was scheduled to be released this year. I don't know if it's still happening. Probably not. But that's based on, I believe, the Dave Eggers book. And so that had Emma Watson and a bunch of other people in it, which I'm about to look up.
You know, it's interesting.
Yeah, Emma Watson, John Boyega, Karen Gillan, Patton Oswalt, Bill Paxton, Glenn Headley. And that was, so they filmed it already. I don't know when it's set for release, but he has a lot of films kind of in the pipeline.
Yeah, which is interesting because I feel like he wasn't really in stuff. Like,
but he was.
He's been a lot of things, but he's not, like, this is a lot of movies in 1 year.
I mean, yeah, I guess. It sounds like The Circle's probably going to get pushed back until next year, but yeah, so he's been busy. He's definitely not, been taking it easy.
Yeah, it probably will be pushed back. I mean, it's already September, and there's no... I'm going on IMDb, and there's nothing about when it's coming out.
Right, exactly.
So,
Anyway, that's the future stuff. So as far as Sully, we should say this is the Clint Eastwood directed film starring Tom Hanks as Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger. Did you know his first name was Chesley? They don't even say it in the movie. They just call him Sully.
You only really know it because they put
it's on the name placard thing and like the hearings and stuff. About the 2009 emergency, I guess Wikipedia's wording, emergency water landing of U.S. flights U.S. Airways Flight 1549 in the Hudson River in New York. And the crazy thing is, Kai had not even heard of this story at all until the movie was coming out. She's like, "Never heard of this."
I don't follow the news.
Apparently, I don't either.
Unless
but
Facebook
I heard about
tells
this.
Me. I guess Facebook wasn't all about the news information in 2009.
Well, it depends what pages you like on Facebook and such too.
True.
So you were totally like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I didn't know when it happened. I didn't.
And the movie deals with, basically, it sort of focuses on the aftermath of the incident and the scrutiny that Sully is under by the media and by the National Transportation Safety Board.
Thank you. I did not know.
I looked it up. I looked it up for my review. You can read my full review, by the way, of Sully on WeGotThisCovered.com, as well as I'll put a post on crocotable.com linking to there. So if you want to check that out, and as well as put it in the show notes of this podcast episode. But the movie just really kind of jumps into the middle of the story. I feel like the traditional way that this story would start is like either well, we'll get into my issue with this later. But either like we'll start and it's another normal day and you spend like 20 minutes like, oh, this is Sully, this is his family, this is his friend, his co-pilot, this is his job, and then disaster strikes like 20 minutes in or something, right? Then like halfway point, the whole issue, blah blah blah, the whole incident, and then the second half dealing with the aftermath. But this sort of starts right from the beginning. I guess we should say spoilers for Sully. I don't know if there's such a thing as spoilers for a movie based on a real incident.
Yeah, I know, sort of.
But spoilers for Sully. It's not exactly like, Star Wars or Batman v Superman.
We don't know where they're going to take.
Yeah, exactly. This has all been well documented, and
he only has Wikipedia because of
unless you're Kai, you know about this event and how it went and who was involved and all this stuff. Sorry, Kai.
It's all right.
She's like making fun of me. I'm like, just a little bit.
People that know me know I don't know about news.
That's true. So it starts out with a little bit of misdirection that I thought was pretty neat and cool. The way you see the plane flying and he's trying to struggle to control it and it slams into the building, and then it starts out with him on the plane and you think, oh, this is the incident, we're going to open right with it. Wow, that's cool. And then you find out that it's just him having a nightmare of how it could have gone if he had not made that decision,
which was very reminiscent of what had happened only years before that.
Well, yeah, and the movie, oh god, the movie reminds you of that every fucking 2 seconds. So it focuses on his kind of inner turmoil and him feeling conflicted about what happened. But then he doesn't really, I guess, first of all, general impressions on the movie. For me, I was very mixed to almost negative, but not quite, and we'll get into more of the details there. I gave it a 3 out of 5 on WeGotThisCovered.com. So I was very lukewarm on it, and I'd heard sort of mixed things coming from early screenings at festivals and such. And I feel like Clint Eastwood's films have really been polarizing lately, where he has a very conservative approach on this is what a hero is, and this is what makes a man, and all that stuff. It's very like sort of restrained, like tormented machismo type stuff to his movies. You see that in American Sniper, which I did not care for at all. I think I actually also gave that a 3 out of 5, maybe even slightly less. And the last movie of his that I saw that I really liked was Mystic River. I was not even that huge on $1 Million Baby. I feel like that movie was slightly overhyped.
What about Gran Torino? Get off my lawn.
Yeah, that's where we all got that from. Thanks for that. By the way, did you notice in this movie at one point he's like walking in Times Square jogging and there was a Gran Torino poster in the background with Clint Eastwood's face and everything?
Oh my god, that's so... Oh wow.
Yeah, so he's okay. Well, I mean, it was set in 2009, and I think that was when Gran Torino came out. So it's like, hey, this was the Clint Eastwood movie then. This is the Clint Eastwood movie now. You're watching. God. So Clint Eastwood is sort of up his own ass, I guess, with that.
So
because obviously they filmed it long after that movie was out of theaters. So
that must have been green screen
probably
to be able to get.
Oh yeah, probably.
The Times Square.
So they used probably like $20,000 to do green screen, not green screen, but to do digitally composite a Gran Torino poster onto the Times Square or whatever.
I guess.
So that was my kind of overall feeling on the film. Did you enjoy it? Especially since you didn't really have any knowledge of this event going in, were you kind of, I mean, you knew how it ended based on the way, because the movie's structured, it basically tells you how everything resolved and then goes back and shows you how it happened from multiple different perspectives and such.
So we're not talking about the bad right now.
No, we're talking about generally speaking.
I mean, I felt engaged watching the film, and I think the other reason for that too is that this is based on true story, inspired by true story, all that, and it was engaging to see, what really did happen, and what it was like for all those people up there on the plane, and the hearing scene that happened, and
Okay, we're not going over all just
right.
general
But
feeling.
no, just I thought it was engaging, and I gave it a 3.5 on my letterbox.
This is like one of the rare cases you like a movie better than me, I think.
I think so. I think, yeah. I was engaged. Definitely, I was kind of enthralled by what was happening, and I think because it was more real life, it grabbed me, because that's terrifying. When you go on a plane, you really hope that nothing bad is going to happen, and we all have that in the back of our mind when we fly, and that's why we tell our loved ones, I'll contact you when I land,
Right?
Because anything could happen, and this movie, this event, it really did happen. That they landed in the water, but yeah, so spoilers, nobody died.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the whole point. That's why we're making a movie about it, and that's why the whole movie is kind of hinges on the question of whether or not this guy's a hero, and it's sort of like, well, those people were on the plane went down, they didn't die, so yeah, why are we making a movie about this? I guess my issue is we know how it ended. We know that he saved these people's lives, essentially. Why is the whole movie predicated on the question of whether or not that was the right thing to do? You know what I mean? I don't feel like the movie ever justifies, and we're getting sort of into the bad a little, I guess. I don't think the movie ever really justifies its existence.
I agree with that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, because the justification for why the NTSB is doing the investigation was explained in the beginning, which makes complete sense. But yeah, that's
well. And
real
by
life.
the way, I
It's
don't know
not
if
a
you've
movie.
read any of this, but the NTSB is pissed off because they're finding, they've heard, they haven't seen the movie because a movie hasn't come out yet. We're recording this just before the film is released, so it's not available. They're not critics. They're not going to see it in advance. But they were totally not involved and consulted with the movie whatsoever. They're concerned because they've heard that they're painted very antagonistically in the film, and they are.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because when I'm watching the film, and it's talking about U.S. Airways, and it's talking about this entire investigation, I'm even wondering, did they get rights?
No, it's based on the book that Sully wrote. On his account, I guess. But I mean, I don't know how much of that antagonistic, like the NTSB as the quote unquote villains of the movie, I don't know how much of that is in his book, or how much of that is just dramatic license to, because you have to have conflict, otherwise what's the point of the movie?
Yeah.
But I feel like his questioning of, like, he seems so burdened by what he did, but then at the same point he also seems super confident in what he did. And I know part of that is him putting up appearances, I guess, and then sort of crumbling within and having all these like conversations with his wife on the phone about like, what if I did the wrong thing and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't know. It never convinces me that he was really that conflicted about it for the whole movie to be about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll get into more detail later. But the most important thing, since this is a Tom Hanks movie and he's the title character, and Tom Hanks is probably one of the most beloved actors in Hollywood, I'd say, from all generations.
He's
and
Jimmy Stewart, right?
Basically, yeah. Basically. What did you think of his performance here? Well, we'll get into some of our other personal favorite performances later on. But what did you think of his role here? How, is this another classic Tom Hanks performance that the Oscar buzz is going to start swirling around?
No. He was just his character was very non-emotive, which I understand that's the character, but being a non-emotive actor, to me, does not warrant an Oscar nomination. And, I don't know a lot about this Sully man. This Sully man named Sully, who wrote this book and had these events. I don't know anything about him, but I guess Tom Hanks did his best to play that part,
So
but
the question,
he's very non-emotive, and I liked Aaron Eckhart. I thought Aaron Eckhart's performance was a lot better.
You're actually beating me to that. The question then becomes: is it Tom Hanks not doing the best he can with the role, or is it the material is lacking? And it's, I mean, I just feel like, so I saw somewhere a headline or somebody tweeted social, I don't even remember anymore, but saying about how the movie is basically like circling. I don't know if I wrote this now. Somebody said something like basically the movie's just kind of like sitting in the gate. They were using like a plane metaphor, and I used a couple of those in my written review. Just like kind of like sitting there waiting. When you go board a plane and it's like circling the gate or whatever, and it's just kind of like
waiting to
taxiing or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is taxiing.
That's kind of how the movie feels, because a lot of the movie is Sully just kind of waiting around in hotel rooms and waiting around in meetings and just being like, no, I did the right thing. We wouldn't have made it. The engine was out. I could feel it. Oh, my ears in the blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay, I get it. But then it's like there's nothing else to the movie but that.
Yeah, I think the pacing was definitely off.
Oh, God. We'll get there. So I felt like Hanks was his performance was, I think I used the phrase in my Rotten Tomatoes, summary, beautifully restrained. I felt like it was really, he gave a lot of emotion with the part that he could, given the limitations that this character gave him, and he still brings that kind of sense of warmth and authority and heart to the character that you could have gotten if you would have gotten somebody totally cold to play this. This would have been like a shit movie, not even like borderline decent, had moments, whatever. This would have been like not even worth. I would be like, fuck this is not worth my time. I can't. I'm trying to think of a good example of someone that's very like cold and like not emotive. What's the male version of Rosamund Pike? Not because Rosamund Pike's a great actress, but she is kind of cold and distant, which is why she was so great for Gone Girl. Which is funny because we keep talking about Gone Girl this episode a lot. I think now it's in my head. I'm gonna have to watch it, but I'm scared.
But I agree with you. I actually was thinking about that while I was watching the movie. That the Sully man, Tom Hanks portrayed him as somebody that did have a good heart and that did care deeply about people and was very compassionate.
Right.
But yet he still was.
But he didn't do shit. That's the problem in this movie. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, but I felt like I knew who that man was.
Right. See,
based on Tom Hanks.
So
I do agree.
Okay, so then you're turning around.
But he was still not emotive though.
But he was, but
I mean,
you don't have
beautifully restrained is a lot better wording than non-emotive.
Well, you can also some of the best performances are those non-emotive performances. It's easy to be like, hoo-wah. That's why a lot of people were like, why did we give the Oscar to Al Pacino for Son of a Woman? Because he's loud in it? You know what I mean? You can be very quiet, and that's actually sometimes the harder acting.
That's true.
So, I feel like his performance is it Oscar-worthy? I don't know. We'll see who the other contenders are. I don't see this taking him to this podium for the third time, though.
No, not of course not. And, he's no Daniel Day-Lewis.
Well, I mean... or
Jack Nicholson.
They're different types. It's a different type of actor. It's weird. Daniel Day-Lewis is he's a method actor, and he only does a movie like every 3 years, and when he does, they give him an Oscar nomination because he's different. He doesn't really have that warmth to him very much either.
No.
But if
Tommy Lee Jones, that's right.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, that would be somebody if you put him in this.
This would be
role.
boring.
Yeah. And it might be like, wow.
Unless you use that world weariness that Tommy Lee Jones has, in the right way, like Men in Black does, where they use it dryly for to counterpoint with Will Smith, or like in No Country for Old Men, and Tommy Lee Jones has he's got the weight of the world on his face, and you could tell that this guy's been through some shit and seen some shit. So no, I agree with. So it seems like I sort of turned you around on Hanks' performance a little bit.
I mean, I wasn't saying I think Tom Hanks did a great job.
But you don't think the material warranted having an actor of Tom Hanks' caliber in the film, basically?
Not really, no. But I think I do agree with you that if it wasn't Tom Hanks, then who would they have gotten to get you to know?
You needed somebody,
Sully.
Right? You need an actor who the audience has sort of bought into already. Like as soon as we sit down, we're like, "There's Tom Hanks. I like this guy." Already before he even says anything. Like, it starts out with the plane crashing in that nightmare sequence, and he's very upset and worried and, sweating and stuff, and you're like, "Aw, why is Tom Hanks upset?" You know what I mean? We're already sort of into it. You don't have to... he doesn't have to do a lot to sell us on it. He just has to convince us that he is that guy. And like for you, as for me, it sounds like he sort of did that. But I do agree with you that Aaron Eckhart in this movie, he's the one that might get an Oscar nomination because he had a lot of the best moments. He held the movie. He was essentially the film's glue in a lot of ways. And I say this again, I'm sort of quoting my own review, but he's Sully's support system. He has some of the best lines in the film. The movie ends on a one-liner that he throws out there. That's the strict. It almost like in editing the movie, Eastwood's like, fuck, I think Aaron Eckhart has a better part than Tom Hanks does, and we should like end it on his character and let him be like the final word of the movie and let the audience sort of out on an up note. And he has just some of the I don't know. He had the real charisma in this more than Hanks did because of the characters that they had. And I think it was a smart move to counterpoint Sully with someone that's a little more outgoing, a little more brash, a little, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Aaron Eckhart is such a great actor. Anybody who's seen The Dark Knight, therefore everybody. And Thank You for Smoking.
And Thank You for Smoking.
And
films
like
Thank
that.
You for Smoking, he's supposed to be basically playing kind of like a sleazeball, but
you
can't
like
help
him.
but like him. He's
Yeah,
very
oh my
charismatic.
God. Those two movies are so great. I don't even know if I've ever rated Thank You for Smoking on Letterboxd, but that's an easy 4.5, if not 5. That's probably one of his best movies. Definitely Jason Reitman's best that I've seen. So he was definitely the standout for me. As soon as the movie ended, I was like, yeah, Hanks was good, but Jesus Christ, Aaron Eckhart, he needed one of these movies because he's been kind of I, Frankenstein and Battle Los Angeles and in these like big budget movies that basically go nowhere and nobody really seems to love very much. This could be a little bit of a career boost for him, as opposed to Laura Linney, who didn't really have much to do here except other
just
than like
worried.
Cry on the phone and be like, I don't know. She didn't have as much to do in this film, and considering that Laura Linney has been nominated for Oscars and is such a celebrated performer, I felt like she was really underused. You could have gotten anybody for that part.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a disappointment to see Laura Linney in sort of a nothing role.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting, to see Aaron Eckhart with a mustache.
Oh my God! Yeah,
like
I actually had a
people still have mustaches like that in 2009.
I actually had a note here in the random section of my notes to comment on the mustaches. Like such cool mustache. Like I was just like, okay, I can't decide if that's cool or like sad that Sully and his Aaron Eckhart's character Jeff Skiles, the first officer of the plane. I can't decide if I'm impressed by their mustaches or if they look like they should be in like a 1970s porn or something.
I know, it was weird. Yeah, I didn't know there were mustaches like that in 2009.
It felt like a period piece. It's almost like, is this in the 70s? They look like they're in the 70s.
And I hadn't even heard. So when the movie said, on this event that happened on January 15th, 2009, I think, that was in 2009.
What, at the end?
I mean, I clearly...
Or in the middle of the movie?
In the middle of the movie. I mean, okay. I clearly knew it was in the early 2000s because they mentioned the economy.
9/11.
Yeah, so obviously I knew it was, the 2000s. But 2009, I'm like, oh, wow. Their mustaches don't look like they're from 2009.
No, not at all. And just real fast to touch on it, as I mentioned earlier, I was a fan of Glee, and I thought it was cool to see both Mike O'Malley and Max Adler in this film. Max Adler, who played the bully David Karofsky on that Fox show. If anybody watched it, probably at this point people are like, I tuned out like middle of season 2. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I understand. The last half of the series was not that great, but it was cool to see the two of them in such a big movie like this and in pretty kind of sizable parts, especially Mike O'Malley, who, if the NTSB is like the evil empire of this movie, he was the Palpatine, I guess. Because he was sort of the head of that board, it seemed like.
Yeah.
So that was neat. He's a great actor.
And it was weird when I was watching the movie. I definitely recognized Max Adler from Glee, but for some reason, I saw Mike O'Malley I just saw him as Mike O'Malley from the Mike O'Malley Show, completely forgetting he was on Glee. And then when I was thinking about the movie again,
you're like, there were two people from Glee.
After it was over, I was like, oh, there were two Glee people. Oh, okay. I just had completely forgotten he had played on Glee. So
that's kind of funny.
He was the coolest dad in the world. So
I teased to you earlier, we were talking about preparing for this podcast, and I mentioned to you that there was one moment in the movie that was like, so awesome. And that it reminded me of another moment from Tom Hanks's career. Did you have any idea or guesses as to what that was, or were you totally in the dark? Don't look at my notes.
No, I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm talking about the moment. Well, the film goes, again, spoilers, I guess. The film goes a long way to illustrate how much Sully cares about his passengers and his crew, and, you know, how he trusted his instinct to serve him in that role, to act in that moment, and decide to go over the Hudson instead of back to one of the airports and actually pull off the water landing safely, right? So when that happens, his whole point is, give me a head count, give me a head count. Like, he's not leaving till he gets that fucking head count.
Yep.
Right? And
Yep.
they make a huge deal of that, to the point that when the people come up to him and like, Sully, we got a head count. It's 155. And you see that look of like relief and like sort of wash over Sully's face. That was a powerful moment. And it's things like that really make you think, see, this is why they needed an actor like Tom Hanks. Like, you need an actor that can convey that complex emotion in moments like that without saying anything. And he didn't even say anything. I think he was just like, oh, okay. Like, he was very non-reactive to the guy, verbally, I mean, you know. But you could see it on his face, and he sold the power of that, and you felt like you as a viewer could feel the weight being lifted off of his shoulders with that, and just being like super, I don't know, so had that like almost like feeling like that euphoric wave of relief kind of rolling over his body. And it reminded me so much of that moment in Forrest Gump that we both love so much. And we'll talk about some of his other earlier work later on the movie, or later in the podcast, later in the movie. See, I'm like, oh, now I'm thinking about Forrest Gump. When Jenny introduces Forrest to her son and says his name is Forrest, and she's like, oh, his name's Forrest too? And she's like, I named him after his daddy. He's like, oh, he's got a daddy named Forrest?
Oh, no.
She's like, you're his daddy, Forrest. And you see that look on his face, realizing that this kid is his, and worrying that kid has the same, you know, limitations that he has. And that feeling, that face, that you know, it's a different character, so he reacts differently, but it's a similar emotion that Hanks is sort of echoing in Sully, of that just feeling of relief and like, oh my God, thank goodness, and just and it really, maybe that's part of the reason it hit me emotionally, because we've independently, I mean, we've both seen Forrest Gump a million times before we ever started dating or anything. And we both identified that moment in Forrest Gump as like our favorite moment in the movie, because Tom Hanks sells it so hard, and you can feel what he's feeling.
I wonder what the scene was that they played at the Oscars that year for him for Forrest Gump, for him to get the Oscars.
I think we looked, and I don't think I think they just did like the little heads in the box.
Yeah, because they were gonna
not heads in the box like what's in the box, not that one, but like the little where they do the split screen to all the different nominees and stuff. But that really, to me was probably the standout moment, like singular moment of Sully, because it made me think of Forrest Gump, and I love Forrest Gump so much, and also partially because Hank sold that moment so hard. And other than that moment, a lot of it was just, we'll get to the things I didn't like in a second, but a lot of it was sort of muddled until you got to the hearing at the end. Those last 20 minutes, I think it sort of turns when he makes that phone call to a buddy of his in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, I want to make sure they have the simulations or whatever, you know, to basically check in on the simulations that they're going to have and all that stuff.
And the CRV, I guess, which is the...
And they get the recording...
Airplane transcript.
Yeah, from the cockpit. I don't know what it stands for. A cockpit voice recording, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah. And who even knew they did that?
Oh, I'm sure. They record everything.
Talk about quality insurance on a plane.
Yeah. Well, they have... Isn't that kind of thing like... Isn't that where the black box comes into play? Isn't there usually, the black box you've heard of, that if a plane crashes, they go and they recover the black box, and it's supposed to be impervious to water and damage, and I think it has recordings of things like that in there. I believe that would be part of that, kind of, I guess, not safety precaution because it's a fucking plane crash, but sort of, to at least find out what happened in the aftermath.
Which makes me ask then, what was with the NTSB where they didn't go to the black box first, the CVR? Why was it Sully they had to come up with going to the CVR? And I guess that is what makes NTSB look like the villains. because they
I
had some
guess.
other resources at their disposal
And
that they chose not to use.
And well, in the movie at least,
In the movie.
but probably not the case in real life. In real life, it sounds like they maintain that they were very fair. Any questions they asked him were just to find out what was going on. It wasn't accusatory or anything like in the movie. It's almost like it feels a little social networky, where it's like he's being grilled about. Did you come up with the idea for Facebook? And then he like it's like a battle of wits, sort of like that.
And what was the
It felt in this movie. It did feel like they were sort of attacked, like looking for reasons to blame him at certain points.
Plus, what were the stakes? What was he going? I mean,
his job, the millions of dollars that plane cost, the insurance
really
money that they would have
job
had if he made the wrong decision or something.
42 years of flying.
Well, he's retired now, so I wonder how long after that movie he retired. Anyway, he must have just been like, "I'm out."
Yeah, but I just
because they even mention in there that he's like close to. It's total cliche from movies like Lethal Weapon and like all these cop movies, but like. It sounded in the movie like he was close to retirement, and he's like, he's got this website set up. We're doing safety consulting and shit. You remember?
Yep.
Early in the movie, they established that. But those last 20 minutes or so in the hearing, when the movie finally like finds its fucking direction, I felt like that's when Sully has any agency and he actually moves on something instead of being like, yeah. I'm waiting for this next meeting. I'm just chilling by the pool. I'm not meaning to go to the pool, but I'm just hanging out with my friend, going for a walk, talking about stuff. And that's when he finally finds a purpose and has something to do.
Yeah, and it is just so crazy that this event happened in January. I mean, it's not like New York's not cold already, but my God, I really felt for those people.
That's why that last line of the film is so great.
Yeah, but I really felt for those people and that man that's in the water and. Like, he could have died of hypothermia and
right. Well, that was and that way, and the movie does a good job, I guess, of sort of illustrating how New York came together in this moment, and you had the rescue teams there, and the cops were all there, and everybody sort of descended on.
It makes you love the New York government people, doesn't it?
Moments like this, yeah.
Officers like, wow, they actually do something.
When these things happen, they come together like that.
Where were all the life jackets? Only certain people got life jackets.
It's only so many. I mean, the plane got submerged in water really fast.
I know, but aren't there life jackets with
for every seat? You would think so.
Yeah, but what about aren't the seats now used as flotation devices? Don't they tell you that?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not the production designer on the film. I can't tell you.
But I guess they're like, oh no. I mean, I don't know. And people have these life vests on. But most of the people weren't even going in the water, except for a couple people, and one of which was a man who didn't even get a life jacket. If those other people weren't going to go in the water, they should have given him a life jacket if he was really going to be advised by the flight attendants to jump in the water. That part didn't make any sense.
Into the lifeboat. No, didn't they jump in the lifeboat?
Not that man.
Oh,
they advised the man that didn't have a life jacket to jump out of the plane to Well, jump from the plane. Well, the plane sounds like it's skydiving, but jump from the plane
That's a different
into the water. And he had no life vest. And I'm like, why can't he hang out in the wing or in the lifeboat? Like, why are you making this flight attendant? Why are you making this particular man go in the water? That part, I don't know.
Maybe they didn't like him. Maybe there's a deleted scene that we hate that guy. You can jump in the water. Fuck off.
Yeah, I don't know. But
I'm cursing a lot in this one, more than I do by myself.
That was just weird to me.
You bring out the F-bomb in me.
I guess so. Wow.
So the hearing part was really great and it illustrated how New York came together, and Sully's had some great speeches and dialogue in that scene. And it was interesting that we find you don't see the full crash sequence until the end of the movie, basically.
Right, yeah.
You see like bits and pieces. You see like the control tower guy talking with Sully. You'd be like, oh, there's a runway here and blah, blah, blah. Remember?
Yep.
You see before, after, and all that, but you don't see the actual plane plummet into the river until that point. And I thought that was sort of an interesting way of doing it. That last act is really compelling. And I made the joke to the lady afterwards, giving feedback, that the movie really did kind of stick the landing. I always get that phrase wrong. It really did kind of stick the landing at the end. It was all over the place. It was a rocky. If you're going to compare the movie to a flight. It took off okay. It was rocky here and there. There were moments where everything was cool, but turbulence every now and again. But then when you got to the end, you're like, oh, okay, well, at least it ended strongly. And that was really I still came out of it with overall quasi-positive feelings. But now let's get into the negative stuff. There was so much on-the-nose dialogue in this thing that just seemed like it was like I mean, I say in my review, I'm half surprised there's not a for your consideration thing fucking, see, there's the F-bomb again, flashing on the screen, because, you know, some of the dialogue was so like, you're a hero, man. You saved those people out there. He's like, and then he's like, oh, you know, it's great because I've worked for 40 years in the sky. He's like, I'm going to be judged on 108 seconds. I'm like,
208
okay,
seconds.
200, whatever, fucking thing. Whatever. There was just like, look at my acting. Look at how hard I'm acting. See this scene? This is an Oscar club scene. I'm like, I get it. But they just really hammer home the you know, how unmistakably heroic what Sully did was, but at the same time the whole movie's questioning, was it heroic? So if the movie's telling you it is heroic, but then trying to convince you to call that into question, why am I watching a movie about it? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I mean,
Well,
there was no nuance to the storytelling whatsoever.
The thing is, though, the people that were kind of making it out to be that it was not heroic were the NTSB, but then everybody else, like, you know, the people on the plane that survived, they thought he was a hero.
Well, yeah.
Just like his wife said, she said, you know, turn on the television and you'll see that what everybody thinks. But it's also, you know, it was showing that Sully was conflicted. You know, that's what they had with the Katie Couric dream sequence, is that he felt.
Oh yeah, God, I forgot about that.
That he felt conflicted inside, like he, you know, I think as a pilot and doing something like that for over 40 years, you sometimes become so
second nature
that when something like that happened in his career, you know, he's so conflicted that and also it's a very traumatic event that he went through,
of course,
you know, that he does think, oh my gosh, am I a fraud? I mean,
but the movie paints things in such black and white terms. This was good. This was bad. These people are bad for asking so many questions. He's good for saving lives. And I'm like, you know, it paints it on such simple terms, but then purports itself to be way more complex than it really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
I mean, if you want to see something and that's why I told you as soon as we came out of there, I'm like, yeah, it was fine, whatever. But I need to show you Flight, because Flight took a lot. This Robert Zemeckis movie with Denzel Washington. I'm saying that for their benefit,
and that's
not
his
yours.
other boy.
Yeah, that's Tom Hanks' other major director that he works with. Well, other than Ron Howard, he never worked with Clint Eastwood before this.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Well, it's Ron Howard, Steven Spielberg, and Robert Zemeckis. It's three big ones. But in that movie, you really are questioning, because that character is way more complicated and way less of a hero. I mean,
he was an alcoholic, right?
You have to watch the movie. He's way more complex of a character and way more compelling because of that. Like, there's certain points where you're not sure if you're on his side, or if you should be rooting for him.
That's always fun.
Or if he did do the right thing, and under what circumstances he may or may not have done.
Did he get nominated for that?
Yes, he did, and he deserved that Oscar nomination. Because Denzel, everything Denzel does, everything Tom Hanks does too, is more or less. But Denzel has a better. I think Denzel has a better track record. Tom Hanks hasn't been nominated since. Well, he was nominated for Captain Phillips, wasn't he? But other than Captain Phillips, he wasn't nominated since Castaway, I think.
Yeah. Or
was he not even nominated for Captain? Oh, I don't think he was nominated for that either. He hasn't been nominated since Castaway, I think, which is like 2000. So it's Denzel. I feel like is nominated for Oscars way more frequently than Tom Hanks is, and Denzel has more of a power on screen. You know what I mean? Tom Hanks has maybe more of a sort of built-in appeal just because he is so affable in his nature. But Denzel has that presence that he just jumps. See, I was right. Okay, yeah. Castaway
I'm fact checking right now.
Yeah, I was doing it before. It's fine. So yeah, Flight is I felt like this was like a kind of a.
He did get a Golden Globe
for
nomination for Captain Phillips.
Yeah, the Barkut Abdi,
Charlie Wilson's War.
The other supporting actor, got nominated for the Oscar for that.
Yeah, they really liked the Oscars. The Academy really liked Tom Hanks in the 90s.
Well, he did a lot more. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see that. He's been a little more hit and miss this last 15 years, I guess, since 16 years since Castaway. But I mean, he still had some really good performances, and we'll get into some of that. But yeah, I feel like Sully is sort of like the poor man's Flight in a way. It's like if you take Flight and you take out all of the complexity and you just keep the basic story, you get kind of like a blander version of it that is actually sort of Sully.
I see that.
And I feel like
But Flight wasn't a true story, was it?
No, but it came out after this movie, so I feel like that was like sort of the fictionalized, better version of the story in a way. And you'll see, we'll watch. I gotta I'll put that on a list of movies we need to watch together, because I do have that on Blu-ray. But and in that there was more story to delve into. There was more, because the main character was more complicated. There was more that you had to dig through in order to get to the climax of this film. They kept stuffing it with so much
Filler.
So much. Oh my God, so much. I've seen some people say that, like, yeah, there's like 30 minutes of story in here in the 90-minute movie. I mean, it's 95, 96 minutes or something. And it feels like it's longer than that just because it just goes on for so long.
Yeah, and those conversations with his wife, they kind of all...
They're the same conversation.
They were like the same conversation.
He has like 3 scenes over the phone with Laura Linney, who must have just recorded all her, like, shot all her stuff in like a couple of days in a house by herself, basically. Because they don't actually have any scenes like physically together.
No.
They're all over the phone. And then you get flashback sequences of him, like, as a young man, learning to fly.
Yeah, that wasn't... I don't think
and, like, in the military, like, doing a cool maneuver. And I'm like, what bearing does that have on anything?
I know.
If the movie's gonna be about this incident, don't show me that shit. And if you want to build up to this, and if you want to delve deep into this man's life story and what led him to this moment, then tell that story. But you're not telling that story. You're telling the story of this incident, and the movie takes place over 2 or 3 days, and they mix it up narratively, where, like I said, where you see bits and pieces of the crash before it happened, after it happened, in sort of a non-linear format. Because if they actually showed it linear, you'd be fucking bored to tears. There's not much that goes on. It's like they focus on the incident, but then they're adding in all these other scenes. We've had like 2 or 3 nightmare sequences from him. We have 2 or 3 flashback sequences from him. We have 2 or 3 scenes with him talking to his wife, which are, like, as you pointed out, all super repetitive. Just like, what if I did the wrong thing? But you did. You're wonderful. You're blah, blah, blah. You're a Sully. Yeah. And we know it's the name of the movie. You know what I mean? It's just, what else could we put in here to, like, expand it out a little bit?
No, yeah, the pacing was...
And it's only 90 minutes. How did this happen? Did nobody think...
How long is a book, anyway, I wonder?
I mean, who knows? Was there not enough juice to... Is there nothing else they could have put in this movie that was more relevant? Or expand the scope?
Probably not.
Apparently not.
Well, let me ask you this.
Well, the whole incident took place, like, I didn't know about it at the time, because it as soon as you hear about it, it's over. Because in the movie, he takes off. Oh, our engines are jacked up. All right, let's go land. And that's it. They are only in the air for like 30 seconds.
Which is,
how do you stretch that out to 90 minutes?
Yeah, and it was
not, you don't, I guess, is the question.
Kind of, since I didn't know this story, but it threw me off because it had the sign at the airport that it was they were going to Charlotte, and then they kept talking about LaGuardia, and I'm like, I don't understand. If they're going to Charlotte, then why could they have landed in LaGuardia? And obviously,
because you didn't know that the plane.
Yeah, I didn't know it
didn't go anywhere. Basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And then I'm like, oh wow, no wonder.
It sort of feels to me like people that had issues with The Walk are gonna have issues with this movie, because that took a very, kind of a brief blip of American history and expanded it out to, like, and this is how he met his girlfriend, and this is how he put his little team together, and this is him as a young man, like, doing tricks in the square.
You like that movie?
I did like that movie, but that movie decided we're gonna tell the story of this guy and how he got to this point. And they don't start with him on the walking between the World Trade Center and then go back and forth. They tell you he's narrating, and plus they have the whole device where he's narrating his own life story, which I thought was really clever. And I thought Joseph Gordon-Levitt, despite his sort of weird French accent that I like to make fun of or imitate, with him walking on the wire, they decide that they're going to tell a biopic that leads up to that moment, and they executed it pretty well.
Do you think then that what Clint Eastwood's focus was to kind of twists and turns and to not know what for the audience what to expect, even though it's an historical event?
I think the editing was designed to not help to. I think the editing was designed to prevent you from realizing that the story you're watching has really not very much substance to it at all. I think that's why the editing was like, let's jump here, and then let's jump here, and let's watch the control guy sit in the room and be like, I lost him. I lost all those people. And then let's go back to the control guy again. You see that guy 2 or 3 times.
I know.
Why is he a character? Why is he like a part of the? Why is he a main like central part of the movie for several scenes? Do you see what I'm saying? It's just they're like, oh, here you go. The other thing that pissed me off. Well, why don't we show some of the passengers and like, oh, we almost missed this flight. Oh, we got on the plane and then it goes down and then they're, oh, I lost my people. Oh my God, you're okay. I don't care. Do you really? No, does the movie really feel like? Does the movie really? No, I didn't give a shit.
Are you telling me that scene with the 2 sons and the father, and I really thought that dude was dead.
Didn't care. I knew he wasn't dead because they established earlier in the movie that everybody was saved.
No,
blah, blah, blah.
They didn't. But they didn't do the count yet.
You didn't see the moment of the count, but you knew that everybody was fine because you saw news clips and him Katie Couric interviewing him like 155 people. You're a hero. Blah blah blah.
I guess so.
You knew that. There's no suspense in that.
But and then he looked back at the plane.
Don't care.
He got back on the.
Did not care about any of that. That to me said, okay, we want viewers to care about the people on this plane.
Well, so we need to. I cared about those 3 people. But
guess.
But the mother and her daughter, I didn't care about them. I didn't understand.
And the dude is like next to yeah. Well, the purpose of it is that the movie thinks that in order for audiences to care about 155 people in a plane and understand the gravity of what Sully did, we have to understand they almost missed that flight and they're just like traveling and we love each other, we're family and stuff. And I'm like, you don't need like stilted drama between characters we don't know about, don't care about, don't meet, except for like 2 scenes in the movie in order to be like, we get it, you saved these people's lives. You don't need that to contextualize it. We understand what he did and that it's heroic. Stop fucking beating us over the head with it, Eastwood.
Well, you know what would actually have been more interesting than that was if they maybe talked more about the flight attendants or something like that. And their actions, because a lot of flight attendants, they fly and they know there's a risk, but who's to say how often that even happens to them?
Or just focus on the man that the movie's named after. If you're gonna make the movie about him, why are we hanging out with random people, making sure that they get to their gate on time?
Filler?
Yeah, exactly.
Here.
And the reason I mentioned The Walk is that I feel like this would have been a movie that I would rather see a documentary of. If this is based on a real event, I'd rather see footage of that actually happening. Interviews with all the people involved. That would be more interesting to me than this movie was. Instead of, let's put it inside his head. And he's like, oh, he's not sure. Am I a hero? Am I not a hero? But yes, you are. We just saw it. Move on. This would be a short film maybe or something. You don't need, or like a vignette in America's Heroes directed by Clint Eastwood. Like a segment in that or something. There's no reason this needed to be a full-length movie. Except for, money and, I guess, awards or whatever. But I honestly don't see this getting very many Oscar
No, I think it's also too early in the season.
Even the crash sequence in the movie. I've heard, the crash sequence, it's crazy. Don't watch this and then go on a plane. I didn't think any of that was particularly groundbreaking.
In the water?
No, them flying and the plane, the engines going out and, them trying to land it. And
I didn't feel sorry for those birds, though.
Well, I know, poor birds. And I didn't really feel like the crash sequence was particularly innovative or interesting. And they shot this in IMAX. I don't know why.
Not even just IMAX. Wasn't it like new IMAX?
Or whatever. Yeah, I guess 70 millimeter or whatever it was. I don't know. There was nothing visually that was really this movie did for me. They've seen Flight had a better airplane sequence. Castaway had a better crash sequence. This is not. So I don't know. I guess I'm ready to sort of summarize. I'm tired of talking about this. So in short, Sully was decent. Maybe check it out in Redbox. I even say in my review, you gotta read it. That it's if this is on TV Sunday afternoon, put it on while you're doing laundry or something. Then it's a good movie for that. I haven't seen this Tom Hanks movie. Oh, that's pretty decent. But to go spend money to go see it in theaters and make an evening of it, $10 a ticket plus popcorn and all this shit.
That also depends on where you live.
Well, $10 a ticket if you're lucky. It's probably $12, $13, $15 now, depending on major markets.
Yeah. Well, in New York, where this movie was set, it's probably more than for $15.
Yeah, not worth the money. You could save your money and get it on Redbox or rent it from iTunes or something. Not worth seeing in theaters. Not one of Tom Hanks' best in recent years. not one of Clint Eastwood's best in recent years, not one of the best biopics or plane crash movies. Nothing. There's nothing in this movie that's exceptional. The only thing that I would say is the highlight is Tom Hanks' performance is really solid. Again, not one of his best, but and Aaron Eckhart doing something interesting on screen for the first time in a long time. That's pretty much all I got. So yeah, again, I gave the movie a 3 out of 5. You can read my full review at wegotThisCovered.com. Like I said, I'll link to that in the show notes for this episode. And crookedtable.com, you can find links back to that review that way. A lot of places to find my thoughts on this film, obviously. But if you listen to this, you probably heard enough of me dropping F-bomb, being like, this fucking movie. So, any closing thoughts, Kai?
No, I agree. Yeah, I completely agree. I did like it a little bit more than you, but only by half a point.
This is not by that much.
Yet.
So, anyway, there's over the last 30. How many years has he been in movies? 80s, early 80s,
early
30s,
late 80s.
30 years roughly.
In movies, yeah, but then
I said 30s, like I was talking about. I mean, like 30 something years. It's not like 30. He hasn't been in movies since the 30s. That'd be crazy. He looks good for his age. Yeah, like early 80s, maybe mid 80s when he really broke through with Splash.
Because he was on Bosom Buddies, right?
Yeah.
In the early 80s.
That was his thing. And Bachelor Party, things like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, over the years, throughout our lifetimes, since we've been alive, he's been in movies. He's been a thing, Tom Hanks.
Yeah, he's
our
Jimmy Stewart.
He really is. There's been so many unforgettable, like really memorable Tom Hanks performances. Sully being only the latest one. But, let's talk about 6.
Let's talk about 6, baby. Let's talk about flicks and me. Let's talk about what the good films and the bad films are to me. Let's talk about 6. Let's talk about 6.
All right, so let's talk about 6 with Tom Hanks. So basically for this segment, instead of ranking a top 6 like I did with the stop motion animated episode, talking about Kubo and the Two Strings a couple episodes ago, this one we're going to split between the two of us, and we're each going to just highlight 3 of our favorite Tom Hanks performances. And they don't necessarily have to be like the best. They don't necessarily have to be Oscar winning or even nominated. Just the ones that sort of hit us personally and the ones that we think of more when it comes to Tom Hanks and some of his best work. I should say that we're not going to count. We're only going to do live action, so we're not counting animated because otherwise all 3 of mine would be the Toy Story trilogy. Or well, I mean, I don't know if I'd put Polar Express in there, but Toy Story movies would definitely be in contention if we were considering that. But just so it's more apples to apples, I feel like doing all live action performances is sort of a good upfront rule. We did, in the interest of disclosure, Kai did tell me her choices up front so that because I wanted to make sure we all had separate choices so there was no overlap. I knew both of us were going to think of a certain movie that will probably be the first one you'll mention. So there's no issues with that. We also there's a few movies of the big highlights of his career that neither one of us have seen. I still haven't seen Captain Phillips, even though I meant to when it was Oscar season then. I don't think I wasn't as closely devoted to catching up with all those movies as I have been the last few years. And that was 2013, so I'm more on board. And last year I saw all the Best Picture nominees well before the Oscars happened. I even, you go to the Crooked Table YouTube page, you can see my reviews of all those Oscar nominees, ranking them.
You had a video too.
That's what I mean. You can see my reviews.
See.
You can see videos.
I didn't even see with your eyes, like where you read it.
No. See, like you can see me talking about Spotlight and Brooklyn and Bridge of Spies. Speaking of Tom Hanks.
But didn't you still write reviews for some of those movies too?
Some of them I did, but some of them were just the videos.
So then my point still stands.
I guess so. So we haven't seen Captain Phillips. We haven't seen Philadelphia, which, we were 10 at the time of that movie's release. So that wasn't something that interested me at that point. And in the years since, it seems so bleak and depressing that I haven't been able to bring myself to actually watch it. I think that's sort of the same thing with you, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
But we won't get to them, especially now. Doing this episode makes me, I'm sort of shaming myself into watching some of his other ones that I haven't seen.
Well, he has I just checked. He has 79 films.
Well,
he's been
79
in.
credits.
79 acting credits.
Yeah, that also includes like cameos and TV and things like that.
But yeah, 79 acting.
I mean,
credits.
they have his cameo from the Simpsons movie in there as credit, but yes.
Yeah, so it's hard to see 79 acting credits.
I've seen probably most of his movies. I'd say.
Yeah, I would say you've done better than me.
Less in the last few years because I haven't. Movies like Larry Crown that I didn't see, or like small Hologram for the King that just came out on Blu-ray and DVD recently. And I should really say, do we want to maybe get out of the way some of our honorable mentions that we didn't go into, or do we want to save those for after?
We'll save those for after.
Okay, we'll save this for after. So we're going to do 3 of our favorites. Did you want to get things started with the most obvious one?
I'll get it started. So one of our favorites is Forrest Gump. Obviously, we'd have to mention that one. And it was a movie that happened right after Philadelphia and earned Tom Hanks his second Oscar in a row. And but he really deserved an Oscar for that movie. I still love that movie to this day. We actually watched it recently. And some of that stuff it's definitely a fantasy film, and the things that happen are very like far-fetched.
I don't know if it's a fantasy film.
Well, it's just everything
no,
in his
like,
life
orcs
kind
and
of
shit.
worked.
Yeah, I mean it's sort of it's not even magical realism. It's more it does have like it works as sort of a fable of the American dream and the American story
right.
and that kind of the whole point is it's American history lesson through the eyes of the most unlikely person, basically.
Right.
It's kind of what it's going for.
Exactly. And it's just, it's that scene that Rob was talking about with, close to the end of the film.
I sort of stole your thunder.
No, it's fine. And it just tugs at your heart. And I mean, it's strange because now 22 years later, I actually feel like Forrest Gump is a very divisive film.
Well, that's mostly because people love Pulp Fiction and Shawshank as much as, if not more, than they did then. Too.
Yeah, but
I like all 3 of those a lot.
Also, that's not the only reason. People also look at Forrest Gump like that they can't stand it. They think it's
overly sentimental,
yes.
And it was also overexposed when it came out, where everybody's like, "Life is like a box of chocolates."
Well, we're still quoting it to this day.
Well, yeah.
People are still saying, "Run, Forrest, run."
Well, now I'm saying, "Run, Barry, run," right. Because of Flash.
Right. Exactly. So, so that's kind of happened in recent years,
which is unfortunate because that's a great movie, and that's both. I don't know if I'm not going to go out on a limb and say it's better than Pulp Fiction or Shawshank, but it might be
also very different films.
It might be my personal favorite. It's the one of those 3 that I've rewatched the most. It's the one of those 3 that I hold closest to my heart. And is it sentimental? Yeah, but what's wrong with that? Sometimes, it's not Full House sentimental where it's like the music cues up and it's like wah wah wah.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And the performances in that film by everybody are just.
I'm still pissed. I'm still pissed. Gary Sinise didn't win that, or at least Samuel L. Jackson for Pulp Fiction win that because it went to Martin Landau for Ed Wood, and I don't. That just seems to me like talk about Oscars so white. We complain about that now. Back then, you had Gary Sinise as Lieutenant Dan nominated. You had Samuel L. Jackson for Pulp Fiction with his most iconic performance still.
Morgan Freeman, right?
He was nominated for lead. We
lead.
talked about this.
I keep forgetting that because there technically, I guess, were 2 leads.
In Shawshank?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Tim Robbins was nominated. I think Morgan Freeman got that instead.
That's a bunch of shit.
Sorry. And they gave it, so over Gary Sinise and Samuel L. Jackson, they gave it to Martin Landau, like the oldest white guy they could find, basically. So that pisses me off because Gary Sinise is great in that.
Yeah, and he has scenes too that like tug at your heart, and like that scene where they're on the boat and he jumps off and Forrest says, "I guess he made his peace with God" or whatever, and yeah, I'm like, ugh, it's just, damn. Is it overly emotional, heartfelt? Yeah, but that's what it's going for. I mean, it does it effectively, and the story it tells is both, has drama, has romance, has comedy, has
pretty much all those elements that you want in a movie.
And it's a family film. It's like family friendly.
And it's family friendly. Yeah, it's a movie that we're gonna introduce to our kids one day.
We saw it in movie theaters.
I don't know if I saw it in theaters actually. I might have missed it in theaters.
Yeah. But we were 11 years
I don't
old,
remember.
and we saw this movie as kids. So clearly,
I might have seen it in theater. It was huge, and it was a summer movie that had the momentum to carry all the way through till Oscar time in like March. At that point, now they moved it up till February lately, but yeah. So good point. Good pick, and obviously. I told you up front you can have Forrest Gump because I've seen more of his movies, because otherwise I would have talked about that. So let's transition out of that, because I feel like otherwise we're just going to talk about Forrest Gump for another 20 minutes. So I'm going to start with, are you going in any specific kind of order, or are you just random?
I'm random.
Okay, I'm just going random too then. I'm just going to go with...
So it's bullet points for this instead of numbers.
Basically. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And I said up front, we're not ranking them. We're not doing number 6 like I did last time. I'm just going to start. In 1998, Tom Hanks gave a really powerful performance in a Steven Spielberg movie called Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, I've heard of that movie.
Yeah, you might have. Another film that's sort of involved in a bit of Oscar controversy, not because it won, but because it lost to Shakespeare in Love. But because I am who I am, I did not pick Saving Private Ryan for this list.
Oh, you did a twist on me.
I did. I picked another 1998 Tom Hanks performance. I picked You've Got Mail.
Oh.
Because I really like that movie, and I don't care what you think. Saving Private Ryan is obviously the more dramatic, the more powerful, the more memorable film. But for me, You've Got Mail is Tom Hanks at his most charming, his most witty, his most likable, and it sort of hits, he's kind of snobby in it a little bit, but he's like, it's almost not to the extent of Aaron Eckhart and Thank You for Smoking, but it sort of leans in that, takes a step in that direction, where he's not the most likable guy up front, but when you see him behind the scenes and him interacting with his dog and him like, I don't know, I really love his performance in that movie, and his interplay with Meg Ryan in that film is really strong. I feel like even though everybody thinks of the Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan couplings and they think of Sleepless in Seattle, I feel like You Got Mail is a far superior film. They actually interact in that movie until before the end of the film. Shocking. It's actually a remake of a 1940s, I think, film called The Shop Around the Corner, which starred, guess who?
Jimmy Stewart?
Jimmy Stewart.
Oh.
So it basically 100% legitimized those comparisons between him and Jimmy Stewart by essentially putting him as the modern Jimmy Stewart in an updated version of a Jimmy Stewart movie.
Who was the lead actress in that movie?
Margaret Sullivan.
Never heard of her.
Yeah, 1940.
But man,
romantic
he
comedy.
needs to be in another movie with Meg Ryan to help bring her career back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to her. But that film, it's one of those movies that you would say, oh, that's a movie my mom would love, because my mom does love it. And maybe that's part of the reason I love it so much. I've seen it so many times, with her putting it on around the house or whatever. But those two stars are just so great in it, and they bring out the best in each other. And that film is sort of dated now because of the You've Got Mail and the AOL construct of it. People don't even use email really anymore, like in that way. I feel like now it would be like Snapchat or something,
well, I feel
if
like
they did a new
you always
version.
Have to have movies like that though that are just very
of the time,
modern, like Friends with Benefits.
Yeah, but no, but
film.
It's not that. It's not modern. That it's modern for that moment. It's not.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, isn't there a word for that? Like, a movie being so like part of like in a time capsule, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because Friends with Benefits like that too. Like it still
bit.
fits, but come another 10 years,
it's like the difference between Friends and How I Met Your Mother. Like you watch Friends and you're like, wow, look at the phones they have, or look at the way they're dressed, or look at their hair, and then you look at How I Met Your Mother and you're like, oh, look, they're making references to texting and social media and Uber and shit like that. You know what I mean?
They talked about Uber?
I don't know if they did. They probably did at some point. I don't know if Uber was even a thing when that show was on.
I don't think so. Uber's...
But they were in New York. They had cabs and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, You've Got Mail, super charming. Nora Ephron, R.I.P., rest in peace, Nora Ephron. That was probably one of her better directorial efforts. I feel like, some of her best work was writing screenplays, When Harry Met Sally, for example. But yeah, You've Got Mail. It's not necessarily the most popular choice for Tom Hanks' part, but he brings so much to that, so much likability and emotion and vulnerability to that character, to a character that could easily be like a sleazebag, and make you really kind of root for him and understand where he's coming from and want them to end up together by the end, which, spoilers, they do. Not real spoilers, because if you know anything about romantic comedies, well, I know how this is going to end. And it does have that predictability to it, but for me it really works, and it has a lot of replay value. And I really enjoy his performance in that. It feels sort of different from a lot of his performances in the 90s, because he was veering more towards dramatic work as the decade went on, with Philadelphia, with Forrest Gump, with Apollo 13, with Saving Private Ryan.
When was Apollo 13?
95.
Oh, okay.
And that was sort of hey, I could still do this kind of thing and be, verbally spar with Meg Ryan like I used to back in the day, and sort of a throwback to his early 80s days of basically doing comedy work. So that's my first pick. I know I went on for a while with that, but and then you
love this movie.
It's a great movie. It's a cute movie. I like it a lot.
You threw me for a loop there.
I know. I like Saving Private Ryan, but I haven't rewatched that a bunch just because it is heavy. But yeah, You've Got Mail is a personal pick of mine. So, Kai, moving on to your second one.
So my next one is Big. I saw this movie a lot when I was a kid, and I just think that Tom Hanks played the role just really sweet and playful, and he really encapsulated that childlike quality, that we all still, I think, want to have as adults. Mm-hmm. And I think I would say that's the movie that put Tom Hanks on the map to having a strong film career.
Oh, totally.
Because he was in Splash and some other things prior to that, but it was Big that it just catapulted him to.
He became big.
Yes, exactly. And I just think it's just
which is ironic, because in that movie the little kid is like, I want to be big, and then Tom Hanks is probably like telling his agent, like, I want to be big.
Yeah.
And then he's like, that's ironic. It's funny that you say that. I have the script.
But I just think it's just a really heartwarming story, and of course you the piano scene, F.A.O. Schwartz is classic, and
I need to get that on Blu-ray. Why don't I have that yet?
I keep asking. I'm like, do you have Big? You're like, no. I keep forgetting you don't have Big.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get it on Blu-ray. I've seen it's on my Amazon wishlist.
It's just one of those movies. So, and once again, Tom Hanks, he just is able to deliver that sweetness and that vulnerability that he does well.
Which makes him the perfect actor to play a child kind of stuck in a man's body.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's kind of, when you think about it, outside the film, it's a little weird, that
he has sex.
Yeah. But,
spoilers, I guess, for a movie that's like 20, 30 years old almost.
Sort of, but so Big for me.
It's a little. I think it's a little bit of a wish fulfillment thing for all 12-year-old boys that they're like, oh yeah, I got a penis that's bigger and I get to do stuff with it.
And it's I think it's cute in the movie where the female lead,
Elizabeth Perkins,
who, what happened to her?
Yeah, she's another one of those.
She was telling the John Hurd character, he's like, what is it about him? And she's like, he's a grown-up.
Oh, yeah, it's ironic. You remember that line? That line does stick out.
Yeah, because he's not, but he, the character that Tom Hanks plays, I don't remember the kid's name, of the character's name, but he just, he's childlike and
Josh Baskin,
right? I think it just reminds us to stop taking life so seriously and to bring out that child quality.
I don't take life serious. Luckily, that must have worked.
That
must have worked on me, because I saw that movie a lot as a kid, actually.
Yeah, and then what was the thing? What was the machine called?
Oh, geez.
Zordon? No, that's
Zordon.
That's my
Rangers. Jeez.
Zoltar, right? The Zoltar, they even have that at some of those.
Oh my god, it's so cool!
It's
so cool when you see it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because of. Oh, I mean, I guess it is because of Big. I think that was pretty much.
I think
created
so.
For the
Probably,
movie.
Yeah, I think so.
So, and of course, there's Mercedes Rule in that movie, and she has a very small part, but I liked her a lot. In Los Angeles.
Oh, it's the mom.
Random Note, yeah.
Yeah, Mercedes Ruehl played his mom. And that was actually his first Oscar nomination.
Yes,
Was for Big, by the way.
I think so, yeah.
So that was when people were like, fuck, that funny guy from Bachelor Party is like a real actor now.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a coming out sort of party, not in like coming out like, hey, like, sorry, that sounded offensive. Not coming out like, you know, being gay, but coming out like, oh my God, this guy's a star. And why didn't we realize that before?
And this movie was so well
Oh,
received
it's
that they then
critically,
became
like,
13
lauded
going,
like
came out with
crazy,
13 going on 30 for the female take, but
which
I still think that Big is a lot more heartwarming.
Big is better film, but 13 I mean, you know, yeah, you get the lady version of it.
And it's told in its own unique way.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so.
Well, I think what it is that Big centers on the young boy experience and looking at a young boy wanting to be an adult and why he would want to do that and his motivation. And then 13 Going on 30, like you said, speaks to the female version of that. Well, why would she want to be grown up? Why would she want to be that? Because she's like, I can't wait till I'm grown up and I get to wear cool clothes and I get to like have an apartment and brush
boobs.
Yeah, all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And boys will pay attention to me and blah blah blah. So it's yeah, they do sort of feel like related in that way. But good, yeah, totally good pick. Yeah, you feel like you took all the high profile ones, and I'm like, but this one's good too.
Oh,
I could have picked Saving Private Ryan, but I just chose not to because I like to be outrageous.
I was gonna use that word. You Got Mail was very popular though, wasn't that like a #1 movie?
Yeah, but if you're you know, people are talking about all time great Tom Hanks performances, they're not gonna bring up You've Got Mail. That's like them being like, you know what I really like? The Money Pit. Which I considered because Money Pit's a great movie.
I haven't seen that one as nearly as much
Oh,
as Big.
God.
I think because it upsets me.
Why? It's so great.
Especially now as an adult, and the fact they own a house.
Oh, you need to see that because we need to watch that together.
It's not a segue into your topic, your next one, is it?
No, it's not. No, it's not. And The Money Pit is my second choice. No, it's not. Because that's Tom Hanks at his purest, at his like purest comic. Like he was purely a comedic actor back in the day. That was like him, like purely hamming it up for laughs.
And he probably, who's to
Even
say,
more
and
so.
it's funny because he probably didn't even want to start that way. He probably just wanted to be taken as taken for a serious actor.
Well, or
but he did so good.
You go where the work takes you. Plus,
he did so well in those roles. So it's like, let's keep giving
coming off of Bosom Buddies, that's a sitcom, so that's probably all he got up front. I'm
also
sure.
Happy Days.
I'm sure he always wanted to do a blend of everything. Doesn't everybody want to do everything?
Yeah, but he also didn't want to be typecast, and that's a lot of times what happens to people is that they get either typecast as. Well, I think it's easier to be typecast as a comedic actor than a dramatic actor.
Absolutely.
Because drama, of course, is very hard. I tried to do drama when I was in acting school, so I can.
I mean, he's even directed stuff. He did That Thing You Do, and Larry Crown. He directed that. I totally forgot and wrote it. So now we really need to watch that.
I guess so.
So my second pick is actually, it's funny. I was saying you got all the big ones, and I got nothing. Big, no pun intended with big. Because I'm actually the first time picking one that he got an Oscar nomination for, and that would be Castaway. This movie, starts out, you know, and he works for a FedEx. I think it is FedEx. I don't remember if it is FedEx. I haven't seen it in a while. I think it is FedEx, and he's like all about keeping to a timetable and effectiveness and you know, taking a plane back home, and it crashes, and then the rest of the movie. Pretty much almost the entire runtime of the movie, minus like, well, I won't spoil what happens towards the end of the movie for people that haven't seen it.
Like me.
Like, you haven't seen Castaway?
No, we haven't talked about this?
I forgot about that. Jeez. We're going to have to end this podcast and then have a Tom Hanks marathon, I think. And Flight. We got to show you Flight. It's basically a one-man show.
Right. Yeah.
It's him on the island, learning to start fire, trying to fix his tooth that's aching him, making a little friend for himself out of a freaking volleyball.
Yes, Wilson.
Wilson! I'm sorry! Oh, and you know, people like to make fun of the whole Wilson thing, but that's a really powerful scene in the context of the film.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention I didn't see this film, but I know this, that what he had to do to his body.
Well, what they did, yeah, I was going to get there. What they did was they shot the first part of the movie, like the first half or whatever, where he's, you know, still relatively new to the island that he crash landed on. And then he went on, like, they stopped filming for several months. He lost all this weight, and then they came back, because in the movie there's a time jump at a certain point, and he's like all like, has this crazy blonde beard. And remember, I think he even grew the beard, like, for real. It wasn't fake or anything. And the way he carries the movie and makes something compelling out of that, creates a story about survival through this one man's perspective. And there's a lot of scenes in the movie where there's no dialogue. It's just him doing stuff, and it really makes you think, well, how would I deal with that situation if I were in this man's shoes? And if you're gonna cast an everyman in a movie, you can't do much better than Tom Hanks to be an audience surrogate, because we're already on, like I said with Sully, we're already on his side from the word go. The fade in, and we're like, okay, Tom Hanks, take me where you're gonna go, because he's earned that over the decades of making such great films. And I feel like Castaway, we accompany him on this journey, and not only is it a physical one that he's isolated from society, it really delves into the emotional side of what's going on with him psychologically, and where that takes him, and what he has to do in order to keep himself alive. And it has moments of lightness to it. It has moments of like cringeworthy moments, and there's a lot going on in that film. And like we said, we mentioned earlier about Robert Zemeckis, who did Forrest Gump with him. He did this one with him. Tom Hanks basically, he knows which directors use him the best, which directors put him in the best roles, and and the fact that he has these regular collaborators really has borne some amazing fruit as far as cinematically. And Zemeckis, I mean, they did Polar Express together, which is entertaining, but not as sharp as the other ones. It's more technological. The
that
achievement
movie
in that.
scares me. With
I know. They're a little zombie-ish. But Castaway was proof positive that Zemeckis and Hanks, when they get together, it usually, even if it's not something amazing like as Polar Express proved, depending on who you ask, some people love that film. It's definitely something worth checking out and something different. And Castaway proves that. So Castaway's my second choice.
There you go. I think that. So we've covered all the movies he was nominated for Academy Awards, right? Because he was only nominated 4 times.
Saving Private Ryan, and I think so.
Yeah,
maybe
it was big.
We mentioned them all at least.
Saving Private Ryan, Philadelphia, Forrest Gump,
Castaway,
and Castaway. Yeah, so then I guess five nominations.
Yeah,
That's
believe
not too
so.
bad. And he's won 2. That's
pretty good odds. Yeah, seriously. So what is your last one?
My last one is A League of Their Own. I clearly need to get out of the 80s and 90s, but it's like, well, that's why I haven't seen a lot of Tom Hanks.
That's why I also purposefully stayed in like the late 90s, 2000s.
Yeah. But A League of Their Own. I saw this movie when I was 9 years old in the movie theater, and actually I did not want to see it at all. Like, I wanted to see Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. But
that's not a very good movie.
No, and I'm so glad that my mom.
And you saw it since.
Yes, I own it now.
Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
No. Honey,
wait, or did you go see that?
I think I saw it later on.
Okay, but in that instance, you were like, I want to see Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Your mom's like, screw that.
She's like, we're gonna see League of Their Own. We don't want to see Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, because I had also an older sister that had feelings too, and
that doesn't matter. You should get your way.
But I'm so glad that, despite my tantrum, I did see League of Their Own, because I really did enjoy it. And I mentioned League of Their Own because, one, this is a historical event that happened in the lives of these women that played baseball, not softball, while their men were at war. But it's also just like, it's just out of character for Tom Hanks. He was so like sleazy and gross, and he just played it so well.
In a different way than in You Got Mail, I would say.
Right.
He's more slick, like slimy in You've Got Mail. Not like he is. Not that he is slimy in that movie, but he has more. If he's gonna fit a stereotype, it's more like slimy businessman type.
Right.
And this is just like spitting.
Right.
That's not what tobacco spit sounds like. Obviously, I just went blue raspberry, but like spitting tobacco and dirty and like alcoholic.
Yeah, he was just, and clearly didn't respect women, and this is also the 40s, so they probably. A lot of men didn't anyway, but he also has an arc in that film too, where he really comes around and is like, yeah, these women, they really are great ball players.
It's a very feminist. It's a very feminist movie
it is,
too.
And that's the other reason I love it. And of course, the most famous line that people still quote to this day is, "There's no crying in baseball." So it's just, I love A League of Their Own, and he did have like a smallish part. I mean, really, that movie was owned by Gina Davis.
It's a supporting role.
Yeah, it was a supporting role, but he really took it and delivered, and just had a lot of fun with it, and and ended up even though he was a little sleazy and gross, he was still charming in his own way,
So basically, you really like Penny Marshall movies.
I guess I do.
Because Big and The League of Their Own were both Penny Marshall. Did you even know that?
No, I didn't. Oh no, she's not. Is she still alive?
Penny Marshall's still alive. Gary Marshall's the one that recently.
Yes. Okay.
Her brother is the one that passed away recently.
I like his films okay too. Not the ones from recent years.
Oh, Mother's Day and things like that. Valentine's Day and Terrible Day. That's what they should call them.
But yes, those are my 3.
Very good. Good choices. And yeah, you took some. Well, I would have taken Forrest Gump. I probably would have taken Big too, honestly. So you're lucky I gave you first dibs, because then you would have been like, that thing you do, which is not that that's a bad role, but that's not like the best.
And I saw that once in the movie theater. Wow.
So third choice, I'm gonna go with my last and final. Well, my last choice, finals. That's repetitive. I was really kind of torn for a bunch of stuff, and we'll get into honorable mentions in a second. But I'm gonna go with Saving Mr. Banks.
I thought about that one too.
Because that performance was really underrated, and that was a year where he was getting sort of Oscar buzz for Captain Phillips and Saving Mr. Banks. And in this film, he plays somebody you may have heard of, Walt Disney.
Oh, that's
which it's crazy. It's crazy that they don't even look alike, but man, he feels like Walt Disney when he's on screen, and he's doing he's doing the black and white like intro stuff that Walt Disney used to do for the Wonderful World of Disney, airings of films. He really carries that the presence and like we said a couple times, the warmth and authority that Tom Hanks has is such a perfect fit for Walt Disney. And that movie is about the making of one of my favorite musicals, Mary Poppins, and has such that's a movie that movie understands that yes, it's about the making of Mary Poppins, but it's about the making of Mary Poppins through the eyes of the author who wrote Mary Poppins, played by Emma Thompson. Whose name I'm blanking on now. Can you recall her name in that?
She took her. It wasn't her beginning name like initials, and then she took her dad's first name.
And of course, I can't find the freaking thing here. Brain fart, everybody. P.L. Travers. That's it. Where Emma Thompson plays P.L. Travers in Saving Mr. Banks. And that movie blends the personal story of P.L. Travers with the making of Mary Poppins and connects it in a way that makes sense. I mean, we were at Target tonight, and I saw it on DVD on sale, and I was tempted to buy it, but I want to get it on Blu-ray because I like that movie a lot. And I think that is the rare case where a biopic is able to balance multiple different timelines and kind of jump back, not timelines, but it jumps back and forth between her past and the present making of the film, and how the story of Mary Poppins connects to her on a personal level. And Walt Disney is key to that. I mean, obviously, this is a Disney movie about the making of a Disney movie, so this is fictionalized up the ass, I'm sure. I'm sure a lot of this is made up. But, when you're judging a film based on real events or inspired by real events, you have to judge the film based on the film's merits. You can't be like, well, this wasn't true the way it happened, so I can't like this movie. I'm like, well, you watch made-up movies all the time. You think fucking Harry Potter is real? I mean, you don't say like, magic's not real, I can't buy into this. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, you can have issues with it, but you shouldn't judge the movie based on that. Be pissed off with the way that the movie was handled, maybe behind the scenes, but the movie should still work as a movie for you.
Plus, with things like that, with any type of biopic or autobiography, there's always 2 sides, 3 sides to every story. So even if there was, it's showing it more from the perspective of Walt Disney and how great he is and stuff, and there's still the true story that no one will really know because they weren't there.
That balances the other accounts.
Yeah, But no, for sure. I mean, I'm sure Walt Disney was a great man, but he still
in his
had
way.
in his
I mean,
way. But
I mean,
there were definitely
we've heard that he's anti-Semitic, that he was anti-Semitic. But then again, it was also that was in that era. A lot of people were anti-Semitic. I don't know if why we're taking something that was a norm in a past time. Not that I'm excusing it, but we're taking something that was more socially accepted in that time, and we're bringing it into today's social environment. You know
right.
what I mean?
And even Walt Disney
That's
pictures.
not 100% fair, because that's like saying, oh, maybe Jimmy Stewart didn't like black people. I'm like, well, back in that time, that wasn't unprecedented. I mean, it clearly was morally wrong, but it wasn't something that was as frowned upon. People didn't, not to say that people didn't know any better is an excuse, because it's not. But it I don't know. It just doesn't feel fair to judge this icon based on the fact that he had beliefs which were commonplace at the time.
Right. And plus, Walt Disney Productions, they've looked back on some of those things that have been shown in movies and tried to pull them,
Well, Song of the South, good luck finding that anywhere.
Dumbo,
or like a lot of those.
With Dumbo.
Oh, the Crows.
Yeah.
That one you could sort of, they let it slide because that's a classic. People love that movie.
Yeah, but they know.
Well, there's a lot of.
They tried to take ownership.
Warner Brothers too. Warner Brothers had a lot of Bugs Bunny cartoons that were really racist, and you're never gonna see them because they're hidden away in a vault. They don't need the drama from that.
But it's like taking ownership for being like, we.
Right.
Accept the fact.
Well, it's like taking
taking
ownership by not taking ownership, by locking it away.
I guess so. Yeah.
But Tom Hanks was so great in this film, and I feel like a lot of people still haven't seen it. It's from John Lee Hancock, who's the guy that did The Blind Side, and he kind of specializes in doing these biopics and fictionalizing them, but making them compelling and getting a lot of critical attention for them. He did The Blind Side. He did Saving Mr. Banks, obviously, and he's did this upcoming movie, The Founder, with Michael Keaton playing Ray Kroc, which I'm really looking forward to because I love Michael Keaton, and I loved Saving Mr. Banks, so I'm really excited to see what John Lee Hancock can do next. So, Saving Mr. Banks, great performance by Emma Thompson, great performance by Tom Hanks as Walt Disney. Just a really, and it's again, like you were saying with Forrest Gump, it has enough. It's dramatic, but it's not like heavy. You know what I mean? It's dramatic, but it's also uplifting in a way. And it's a movie you can totally watch with kids because it doesn't lean too heavily on, I don't know, the darker parts of the story. It sort of alludes to it and lets you know what's going on without really showing you anything graphic or anything like that. It is a Disney movie bearing the Disney name. It's not Disney, through one of the subsidiaries, and it's rated PG-13. But honestly, I thought it was rated PG until a second ago when I checked it.
I love that poster, though.
Oh my God, it's so great. I want it for my wall. It easily could have been a PG film, and it's one of those movies that when people say, oh, biopics can never be done right, I would point them to Saving Mr. Banks as an example of, well, really? Because this one pulled it off perfectly. And another movie that has nothing to do with Tom Hanks, but Love and Mercy, which I should talk about at another point, with John Cusack and Paul Dano playing Brian Wilson. That's an amazing movie that I really liked a lot. So those are my three choices. To recap, Saving Mr. Banks, you've got Male, and Cast. I did them out of order. Saving Mr. Banks, Castaway, and you've got Male.
And my choices were Forrest Gump, Big, and A League of Their Own. So
those are our 6 picks for some of our personal favorite Tom Hanks performances. But we're interested to hear what you guys think. What did you think of Sully? Did you see it? Did you love it? Are you mad at me for cursing about it so much in this episode? What's your favorite Tom Hanks performance? Send us an email, robert@crookedtable.com, or reach out to me on Twitter @crookedtable.
And you can reach out to me at the Vault Key LLC, and you can also find me on Letterboxd.
Yes, Letterboxd. Yeah, I'm on Letterboxd too. If people, I don't really know if that's a thing that most casual people use.
Well,
I feel like it's
we
mostly
keep
film
mentioning
critic.
it, more people will go on there.
That's true. I like their service. It's basically Goodreads.
It is Goodreads for movies.
We talk about it so much that people are going to think we have stock in Letterboxd.
We don't.
We don't. We just like it. It's fun. Kai's obsessed with rating everything she sees. So
yeah, I like to rate. I like to know everything I read.
I like to track stuff. What
everything I walk. Yeah, it's good.
You're silly. So you can also find more podcasts, videos, reviews, and other movie-related goodies on crookedtable.com, Facebook, Snapchat. I'm having an account with Snapchat that I'm sort of half-heartedly started. Let me know. Tweet to me if you think I should be on Snapchat. I'm not sure if it's even worth my time. But next week, as I mentioned,
Tumblr.
Oh, Tumblr. Yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm everywhere. Find a social media platform. Type in Crooked Table or Robert Yanis Jr. and I'm there somewhere. Next week, as I mentioned, I'm going to be talking about Harry Potter and the Cursed Child and give my general feedback on that book. Or it's not even a book. That's the funny thing. I feel like there's going to be people who buy it and they're like, "What the hell is this? It's like a play." No shit, really? I feel like some people think it was a novelization of the book because that's what I thought it was initially until its release got closer, and then I realized, it's a script book for the play. So I'll be sharing my thoughts on that, possibly doing a Let's Talk About 6 about Harry Potter, or maybe I'll see some other movie in the meantime that I really want to talk about, and I'll just let that overtake. But Harry Potter and the Cursed Child will happen, so that'll be next week on Crooked Table Podcast. I'm Rob.
And I'm Kai.
And that'll be it this episode. We'll catch you guys next time. Roll credits.
This has been a production of crookedtable.com. All rights reserved.
CROOKED.